There is a lake of stone in the Pacific Ocean. 100 artificial islands sit on a coral reef, 3,000 kilometers from the nearest continent. They are built from basalt columns, some weighing 50 tons, stacked into walls 8 meters high. There is no basalt quarry on the reef. Someone moved 750,000 tons of rock across open ocean and stacked it in the sea. That weight equals 2 Empire State Buildings. The people who built it say the stones flew. In Ukraine, there is a city where 49,000 people left in 36 hours. Pripyat emptied on a single day in April 1986. The buses arrived, the residents boarded, and the apartment doors stayed open. Nobody came back. The exclusion zone around it now covers more than 1,000 square miles, larger than the entire country of Luxembourg. Wolves live there now, at 7 times the density of the surrounding region. Parts of it remain too radioactive for a human to stand in. On the coast of Cyprus, there is a resort where the year is still 1974. Varosha was the most fashionable beach in the Mediterranean. Elizabeth Taylor stayed there. Then the Turkish military arrived, a fence went up, and 15,000 people walked out. The hotel reception desks still hold guest paperwork from that summer. Shop mannequins still wear the fashion of that season. The fence has stood for 46 years. Under a hill in central Turkey, there is a city carved downward into rock. Derinkuyu descends 280 feet through at least 18 levels, deep enough to invert a 25-story building into the earth. It held 20,000 people and their livestock. It had ventilation shafts, chapels, and wine presses. Stone doors weighing 1,100 pounds sealed it from the inside. A man found it in 1963 by knocking through his basement wall. This is our countdown of the 12 cities that emptied overnight even historians cannot explain. Stay until the end, because at number 1, the people who built a stone city on a Pacific reef insist the 50-ton columns were flown into place by magic, and no scientist has replaced that answer. Drop a comment and tell us where you are watching from right now. We want to see how far this reaches. At number 12, Cahokia in Illinois in the United States. They had no metal tools, they had no written language. They built the largest city in North America. Cahokia sat near modern Collinsville, across the river from present-day St. Louis. At its peak around 1100 say it held as many as 20,000 people. That made it larger than London at the same moment in history. The center of it was an earthwork called Monk's Mound. It covers 14 acres at the base and rises 100 feet. Its footprint is larger than the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Every basket of that earth was carried by hand. Timothy Pocketot of the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign estimates the builders moved 55 million cubic feet of soil. That volume could bury 20 football fields under a foot of dirt. Pocketot published the excavation record in the journal American Antiquity, and in his book Cahokia, Ancient America's Great City on the Mississippi. The city had plazas and timber monuments. One of them archaeologists named Woodhenge, a ring of posts that tracked the sun. It also had a burial in Mound 72, where a man was laid on 20,000 shell beads. Around him were dozens of sacrificed bodies, many of them young women, buried in rows. The bead cape beneath him was shaped like a bird. A grand plaza the size of 35 football fields spread out below the mound, leveled and filled by hand. Then it emptied. Between 1200 and the 1350s, the people left. There was flooding from the Mississippi. There was deforestation and the erosion that follows it. There was political fragmentation. No single cause has been isolated. But the decline is not the mystery. The completeness is. Other Mississippian towns faded slowly and left successors. Cahokia left no heir. A metropolis that took generations to build was fully vacated, and nobody rebuilt on the site. The people scattered into smaller groups and never reassembled anything like it. No written record explains the decision, because these people left no writing at all. When French explorers reached the valley centuries later, the mounds stood empty, and the local nations did not claim to have built them. The mounds are still there, the city is gone. Nobody knows why they walked. At number 11, Chaco Canyon, in New Mexico, in the United States. The roads run straight across the desert. They lead to nothing. At the heart of the San Juan Basin sits a stone complex called Pueblo Bonito. It held 800 rooms, rose as high as 4 stories, and was laid out in a precise D shape. It was the center of a world. Around it ran roads 30 feet wide, cut arrows straight across open desert. Some of them run over 50 miles, roughly the distance from Chaco to the edge of modern Albuquerque. No wheeled vehicle ever traveled them. No pack animal existed there. Stephen Plogg of the University of Virginia studied the road network and the society that built it. His work appeared in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. The builders hauled timber too. Over 200,000 pine logs were carried into the canyon from mountains 50 miles away, each beam moved by hand to roof the great houses. The dating of the collapse comes from the trees. Dendrochronology, the reading of tree rings, records a multi-decade drought settling over the region in the middle 1100s. Cacao residue found in Chaco vessels also traces trade lines running all the way to Mesoamerica, more than 1,000 miles south. Macaw skeletons, birds from the tropics, turned up in the rooms. On a nearby rise called Fajada Butte, a spiral carving catches a blade of noon sunlight at the solstice, a stone calendar cut into the cliff. By 1150 say, Pueblo Bonito was depopulated. The great houses stood empty. The straight roads carried no one. And here is where the record splits. The tree rings prove the drought. They do not prove the speed of the exodus. A slow environmental grind and a fast political rupture leave nearly the same evidence in the ground. Some researchers read Chaco as a gradual drying out. Others read it as a sudden rejection of the place itself, timed to something the drought alone does not explain. Burned roofs in some great houses hint at a deliberate closing of the buildings. The roads point outward from the canyon in every direction. Where the people went when they walked them is not settled. The drought is documented. The departure is dated. The reason remains an argument. At number 10, Fatehpur Sikri, in Uttar Pradesh, in India. They built an imperial capital in 14 years. They abandoned it in about the same span. The Mughal Emperor Akbar began construction in 1571 near the city of Agra. He raised palaces, a treasury, a mosque, and a victory gate called the Buland Darwaza that stands 176 feet tall. That is roughly the height of a 16-story building. The courtyard of the Jama Masjid holds 25,000 worshippers. Akbar built a working seat of empire from bare ground. The city was cut from red sandstone, quarried from the ridge it stands on. It had a court paved as a giant game board, where Akbar is said to have used people as living pieces. It had a hall built around a single central pillar, where the emperor sat above his advisors. Every surface was carved. The tomb of the Sufi Saint Salim Chishti sits at its heart, sheathed in white marble screens. At its height, the city may have held more people than London did in the same decade, drawn to a court in the desert. By 1585, it was empty. The Archaeological Survey of India has documented the site for over a century. The historian Catherine Asher of the University of Minnesota examined it in her book Architecture of Mughal India, published by Cambridge. The explanation most often cited is water. The city's reservoir system, the theory goes, could not sustain a full imperial population, and the court moved on. The turn is in the hydrology. Later surveys of the water supply do not cleanly support the theory. The reservoirs, by some readings, could have held enough. Akbar's own campaigns in the north and his move to Lahore offer a rival explanation that has never been confirmed either. The Archaeological Survey of India has never issued a single definitive cause for the abandonment. A completed capital, one of the finest built in the 16th century, was walked away from within 15 years of its founding. The palaces still stand. The mosque still holds prayers. Why Akbar left has never been fixed. At number 9, Plymouth, on the island of Montserrat, in the Caribbean. It is the only ghost capital in the modern world. Its residents watched it die from a mountain. Plymouth was the capital of Montserrat, a British territory, with a population near 4,000. Above it rose the Soufriere Hills volcano, quiet for centuries. In 1995, it woke. Over the next 2 years, it built toward catastrophe. In 1997, pyroclastic flows, avalanches of superheated gas and rock, poured down and buried the city. Ash and mud filled Plymouth to a depth of up to 39 feet. That is the height of a 4-story building. Streets, shops, and the courthouse vanished under it. 19 people died in the flows of June 1997, caught in areas thought to be safe. The Montserrat Volcano Observatory, a joint British and Caribbean institution, tracked the eruptions in detail. Their findings ran in the Journal of Volcanology and Geothermal Research. The eruption cut the island's usable land in half. Nearly two-thirds of the population left Montserrat entirely and never returned. The airport was buried on the far side of the island. The capital was declared an exclusion zone, but Plymouth is not a ruin left in the past. The volcano is still active. The observatory still watches it. The exclusion zone remains under government order, and Plymouth stays buried and sealed, the abandoned seat of a functioning nation. A country still lists a capital that no one is allowed to live in. The government now runs from a village called Braids, on the safe northern end. Boats now carry visitors along the coast to look at the buried town from the water, forbidden to land. The clock tower rises out of the gray. The buildings stand to their upper floors in hardened ash. Nobody knows when the mountain will permit a return. The order stands. The volcano stands over it. The city stays under. At number 8, Kolmanskop, in the Karas region, in Namibia. The rooms are full of sand. It came in through the windows on its own. In 1908, a rail worker found a diamond in the Namib Desert near Luderitz. Within years, a town rose out of nothing. Kolmanskop held over 1,000 people at its peak in the 1920s. It had a ballroom, a casino, an ice factory, a bowling alley, and the first X-ray station in the southern hemisphere. German colonists built a European town in one of the driest deserts on Earth. Water was hauled in by rail across the dunes. Ice was delivered to every house by cart. The town even ran a tram and imported a champagne habit that made it, per resident, one of the wealthiest places on the continent. The diamonds here lay loose in the sand, and workers crawled the desert at night, picking them out by moonlight. The hospital housed the first X-ray machine in the southern hemisphere, installed partly to catch workers hiding stones inside their bodies. Then the diamonds ran out, or moved. Richer fields were found to the south, at a place called Oranjemund. By 1954, the town was deserted. The Namibian National Heritage Council documents the site, and dune migration across the region has been measured in the Journal of African Earth Sciences. The desert did the rest. Wind drives sand through the open doors and broken windows, day after day, for 70 years. It piles up inside the houses. In some rooms, the dunes now stand over 6 feet high, taller than the men who once lived there. Doorframes disappear. Staircases run down into sand. The exact reason the town died is still argued. Pure economics, or a deliberate consolidation by the diamond company De Beers moving operations elsewhere. The record does not settle it. The ballroom is half buried. The sand is still coming in. The desert is taking the town back one room at a time. At number 7, Copán, in the Copán department, in Honduras. The dynasty wrote everything down. Then the writing stops mid-record. Copán was a Maya capital in western Honduras, holding around 20,000 people at its height. Its rulers left the longest known text in the Maya world. A stairway of stone, the hieroglyphic stairway, carries over 2,200 glyph blocks. It records the dynasty across 400 years in unbroken detail. It is longer than most inscribed Maya monuments combined. William Fash of Harvard University excavated the site across decades. His work appeared in the Journal of Field Archaeology and in his book Scribes, Warriors, and Kings. The dynasty ran through 16 kings, from a founder named Yaks Cook Mo in the 5th century. Skeletal studies of the city's final generations show worsening malnutrition, marks of a population outgrowing its valley. The last king, a ruler whose name reads as Yaks Passage, presided over a court that was already fracturing. Buried inside one pyramid, archaeologists found an older temple, Rosalila, sealed whole and intact by the Maya themselves, its painted stucco still bright in the dark. The last dated monument at Copán was carved in 822 CE. Then, across the 9th century, the city collapsed. Drought struck the region. The surrounding hills were stripped of forest. The dynasty fell. The turn is not in the collapse. It is in the silence at the end of the stone. The scribes recorded 4 centuries of kings, wars, and successions. They carved the dynasty's history into the stairway with total discipline. And then the record ends. No final entry, no account of the crisis, no last king explaining what happened to the city around him. The most complete written history in the Maya world stops, and nobody carved the reason anywhere. Whether the rulers fell before the forests failed or after is disputed. The stelae stand in rows. The stairway climbs. The last line was cut, and then nothing. The top 6 go stranger. Subscribe now, because ahead is a city where 49,000 people vanished in a day and the wolves moved in. An island packed denser than Manhattan and then emptied in months. And a hidden city 18 levels deep that a man found by breaking through his own wall. Turn on notifications and stay with the countdown. At number 6, Centralia, in Pennsylvania, in the United States. The town is still on fire underground. It has been burning for over 60 years. Centralia was a coal town of around 1,000 people. In 1962, a fire ignited in the anthracite coal seams beneath it. The most cited account traces it to burning trash in an old strip pit that reached an exposed seam. The fire spread through the mine tunnels and never went out. It is still burning today. The U.S. Bureau of Mines surveyed it in the early years. The Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection monitors it now. Smithsonian Magazine has tracked its history. The fire runs beneath roughly 400 acres, an underground blaze the size of 300 football fields. Ground temperatures in places have measured over 900 degrees Fahrenheit. Smoke seeps through cracks. Sinkholes open without warning. In 1981, a 12-year-old boy named Todd Domboski fell into one that opened beneath his feet, into a pit venting lethal carbon monoxide. He survived by grabbing a tree root and holding on until his cousin pulled him out. That collapse turned national attention on the town. The residents were relocated. Congress spent $42 million to move them. The population fell from 1,000 to single digits, as low as 5 people in recent years. A few holdouts won the right to stay for life. A cracked stretch of Route 61, buckled by the heat below, became a graffiti wall that draws visitors to the dead town. But the fire is not the strangest number. By some estimates, the coal seam holds enough fuel to keep burning for up to 250 more years. No method exists to put it out. In 2013, the United States Postal Service revoked the town's zip code. The land is condemned. Smoke rises from the hillside. The road buckles. The town is legally gone, and it is still on fire. At number 5, Pripyat, in Kiev Oblast in Ukraine. 49,000 people left in 36 hours. The apartment doors are still open. Pripyat was built for the workers of the Chernobyl nuclear plant. It was a young city, average age around 26, with schools, a hospital, and an amusement park set to open that May. On the 26th of April, 1986, Reactor 4 exploded. The next day, the evacuation began. 1,100 buses arrived, a convoy that stretched for miles. The residents were told they would return in 3 days. They boarded and left. They never came back. The International Atomic Energy Agency documented the disaster through its Chernobyl Forum. Radiological studies of the zone have run in the journal Environment International. The exclusion zone now covers more than 1,000 square miles, an area larger than Luxembourg. The amusement park never opened. The Ferris wheel has never carried a passenger. Its yellow cars still hang over a square of cracked pavement. And then the animals arrived. With the people gone, the exclusion zone became one of the largest wildlife reserves in Europe. Wolf populations have been recorded at 7 times the density of comparable regions outside the zone. Boar, lynx, and the reintroduced Przewalski horse move through the empty apartment blocks. Life filled the space that radiation was supposed to have sterilized. Parts of the zone remain lethal. The Red Forest, near the reactor, is among the most contaminated areas on Earth, too radioactive for a human to stand in unshielded. Full decontamination is estimated in centuries, and the reactor itself sits inside a steel confinement arch built to last 100 years. The arch is the largest movable land structure ever built, tall enough to cover the Statue of Liberty. The classrooms still hold textbooks. The wolves cross the schoolyard. The doors are open, and no one is coming back. At number 4, Hashima, off the coast of Nagasaki in Japan. It is shaped like a battleship. 5,000 people once lived on 16 acres. Then it emptied in months. Hashima Island sits 9 miles off Nagasaki. The Japanese call it Gunkunjima, the battleship island, for its silhouette. It was a coal mine run by Mitsubishi, and it held one of the highest population densities ever recorded on Earth. Over 5,000 people lived on 16 acres. That works out to around 216,000 people per square mile, roughly 10 times the density of modern Manhattan. To house them, Japan built its first large reinforced concrete apartment block there in 1916. A whole vertical city followed. Schools, a hospital, a temple, a cinema, shops, a rooftop garden, all packed onto a rock in the sea. A seawall ringed the island against the typhoons. Nagasaki City documents the island, and it entered the UNESCO World Heritage List in 2015. Its conservation has been examined in the Journal of Architectural Conservation. The mine reached under the seabed, its shafts running down more than 3,000 feet below the ocean floor. During the war years, Korean and Chinese laborers were forced to work the shafts, a history that delayed the World Heritage listing for years. In 1974, the mine closed. The coal era ended, and oil replaced it. The turn is in the speed. The evacuation took months, not years. The company shut the mine, and the population left almost at once. They walked out and left the city standing. Furniture stayed in the apartments. Chalkboards kept their writing. Shoes were left at doors. Televisions were left plugged into the wall. A working city of thousands became silent concrete within a single year. 50 years of typhoons have battered it since. The buildings are collapsing. Most of the island is sealed off, too dangerous to enter, open only along one narrow walkway. The battleship of concrete is falling into the sea, floor by floor. At number 3, Derinkuyu, in Cappadocia, in Turkey. A man knocked down a wall in his house in 1963. Behind it was a city. The renovation opened onto a tunnel. The tunnel opened onto another. Beneath the town of Derinkuyu lay a city carved straight down into volcanic rock. It descends 280 feet through at least 18 levels, deep enough to sink a 25-story building into the ground. It could shelter 20,000 people, along with their livestock and food stores. The Turkish Ministry of Culture excavated it. Its structure has been analyzed in the journal Anatolian Studies. The soft volcanic stone, called tuff, cuts easily when fresh and hardens in air, which let the diggers carve room after room. The city held ventilation shafts, more than 50 of them, that still carry fresh air to the lowest levels. It had chapels, stables, a school, wine presses, and oil presses cut from the rock. Between the levels stood stone doors weighing up to 1,100 pounds, round like millstones, that could be rolled shut and locked from the inside only. Each door had a small central hole, wide enough to pass a spear through. The lowest level held a cruciform church and a deep well. The doors are the answer to what it was for. A door that seals from one side is built to keep something out. Derinkuyu was a refuge, a place to disappear into the earth when armies crossed the surface. Whole communities could vanish underground, roll the millstone doors shut, and wait. The ventilation let them breathe. The stores let them last. But the origin is unsettled. It is unclear who began the carving. The Phrygians in the first millennium BC are the leading candidate, but the record is thin. It is also unclear how deep it truly goes. At least 18 levels have been mapped. Whether more chambers lie beneath the explored floors has not been established. A 5-mile tunnel is said to link it to another underground city, Kaimakli. More than 200 underground settlements honeycomb the Cappadocia region, and Derinkuyu is the deepest one found so far. The stone doors still stand in their grooves. The air still moves through the shafts. How far down it reaches, nobody has confirmed. At number 2, Varosha, in Famagusta, in Cyprus. The calendar stopped in 1974. The mannequins still wear that year's clothes. Varosha was the brightest resort in the Mediterranean. Its beachfront hotels drew stars. Elizabeth Taylor stayed there. Brigitte Bardot walked its sand. Richard Burton and Raquel Welch filled its hotels. 15,000 people lived in the district, and the high-rise strip drew tourists by the tens of thousands every season. Then, in 1974, the Turkish military moved into Cyprus. The population of Varosha fled, expecting to return within days. A fence went up around the district. The soldiers stayed. For 46 years, nothing moved. The United Nations peacekeeping force in Cyprus has reported on the zone for decades. Its status appears in the Journal of Mediterranean Studies. Behind the fence, roughly 2.5 square miles of coastline sat frozen. Hotel reception desks kept guest records from that final summer. Shops held merchandise from 1974. A car dealership kept new models that never sold, their 1974 price tags still attached. Sea turtles reclaimed the empty beach to nest. Soldiers still guard the barrier of rusted oil drums and barbed wire, and for decades photographing the strip was forbidden. The turn is in the ownership. The people who fled were mostly Greek Cypriots. The territory fell under Turkish Cypriot control. That standoff never resolved. The original owners hold deeds to properties they cannot enter. The administration that controls the land is not recognized by the people who own the buildings. United Nations resolutions have called for the district's return to its inhabitants, and none has been enforced. In 2020, a few streets reopened to visitors. The rest stays sealed. A resort that hosted the famous now stands as an empty grid behind wire. The hotels rise 15 stories, gutted and streaked. The beach is closed. The paperwork of the last guests sits in the dark where they left it. At number 1, Madol, in Pohnpei in Micronesia. 92 islands were built by hand on a reef. The people who built them say the stones flew. Madol sits on a coral reef off the island of Pohnpei, 3,000 kilometers from any continent. It is a city of 92 artificial islets, laced with canals, that served as the ceremonial and political capital of the Sadolur dynasty from around 1200 to 1500 CE. Canoes moved through it like boats through Venice. Its name means the spaces between, for the water channels that divide it. It is built from basalt. Long columns of black volcanic rock, stacked horizontal and vertical, interlocked like logs into walls up to 8 meters high. Some columns weigh 50 tons. Some are longer than a school bus. Rufino Maurizio of the Federated States of Micronesia Historic Preservation Office estimates the total stone at 750,000 tons. That is the weight of 2 Empire State Buildings. The central tomb, called Nundawas, sits inside walls that reach 8 meters at the corners. There is no basalt quarry on the reef. The nearest source is on the main island, across open water. Someone moved every column across the sea and set it in place on the reef. They were not supposed to be able to do that. In 1995, William Ayres of the University of Oregon led a team that tried to move a single basalt column using traditional methods. Log rollers, wooden sledges, human muscle. Moving one column took dozens of workers, and far longer than the timeline allows if scaled across the whole city. Rafts and floating the stone at high tide have been proposed. None reproduces the numbers the ruins demand. The oral tradition, recorded by the Historic Preservation Office, gives a different account. The Sadolur rulers used magic. The stones lifted from the quarry, flew through the air, and dropped into position on the reef. 2 sorcerers, the story says, chanted them across the water. Local belief holds that outsiders who sleep among the ruins invite sickness, and the site sees few visitors even now. The archaeologists say that is impossible. The archaeologists also cannot demonstrate the conventional method at scale. By 1628, the city was abandoned, and the dynasty was gone. The quarry is on the island. The city is on the reef. The ocean is between them. The columns are stacked 8 meters high, and the only surviving explanation for how is that the rocks flew. 92 islands of stone in the Pacific, built by a people who say they used magic. A resort in Cyprus fenced off with the guests' paperwork still on the desks. A city under Turkish hills, 18 levels deep, found through a basement wall. An island off Nagasaki, denser than Manhattan, collapsing into the sea. A city in Ukraine where the wolves crossed the schoolyard. A town in Pennsylvania burning underground for 60 years. A Maya stairway that records 4 centuries and then stops midline. A diamond town in Namibia filling with sand. A Caribbean capital sealed under 39 feet of ash. A Mughal city walked away from in 14 years. Desert roads in New Mexico that lead nowhere. A hand-built metropolis in Illinois with no metal, no writing and no air. Every one of these cities was full. Every one emptied. Some emptied in a day, some over a generation, and the records still cannot say exactly why the people chose to go or exactly where they went. The buildings stayed. The streets stayed. The paperwork stayed on the desks. Only the people left. Which of these emptied cities would you actually walk into if the fence came down and the door opened? Tell us in the comments. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. The next one goes somewhere that was never meant to be found.